Warming up now. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I know that Karen is not able to join us and Kristen is not able to join us today. Pete was a little tentative. Brad is finishing up a budget session at the county, but he plans on being here. And maybe that's where Mark is as well. But we'll go ahead and get started. Introductions.
Chip Oils, Thomas Jefferson Planning District, and the Charlottesville Albemarle NPO.
Morgan Butler, Southern Environmental Law Center.
Mark Graham, County of Albemarle.
Chris Engel, City of Charlottesville. Henry Reinberg, Express Car Wash Consultant.
All right, technical team.
Joel Denunzio, VDOT Charlottesville residency.
David Hubbington, VDOT Charlottesville residency.
Debbie Messina, Publishing Cat Company.
Linda.
Linda Cullop, VDOT IT Support.
Al Jones, VDOT Charlottesville residency. Lou Hatter, VDOT Communications.
And for anyone joining on Route29solutions.org, if you go to the panel meeting tab, you'll find the agenda and the presentation for today's meeting. For those that have joined us, if necessary, there's rest areas down the restrooms, down the hall to the right, and if we have to vacate this room for any reason whatsoever, an emergency, we go back down the steps, out the front door to the left, and rally around in the parking lot. For our live streaming from the last meeting, still holding pretty steady at 20 plus viewers, 30-some streams, and maybe people tuned in for a few minutes less last time. But again, that's been holding very steady. For the feedback from the last 2-week period, there were 5 that either came into the project inbox or phone calls to Lou, and I got one phone call myself. There was actually one email. Excuse me. There was one email regarding windshield damage from gravel on Route 29, and they got the information referred over to Lane Corman's claims folks. One asking for assistance regarding sale of property that was acquired for the bypass, and Lou got information to them. Lou, were they interested in purchasing property or?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That some property has recently been advertised for sale.
Yeah, I probably had about half a dozen phone calls from different people, a couple of realtors.
Saw those ads in the paper.
Who are interested, have heard the stories about the property.
Yeah, okay.
Finding out about it.
Maybe at the next meeting, we'll bring that summary again and update the panel on the total number of properties, what's been closed.
Okay.
We'll do that. There was one regarding just notifying us of illegal left turns on red from Route 29 southbound to Ryle Road East, and I know that got bounced over to law enforcement folks. Another one regarding signal timing at Route 29 and Rio. Lou got some information to them. We'll talk about that on another agenda item too, as far as that nighttime phasing goes. And then I did get an email, as some of you all did as well, regarding signing for Charlottesville on Route 29 southbound overhead sign. Shortly after the note I got, Kristen got a note, which I think was from the same gentleman. I think Pete got a note from the same gentleman. I don't know that for sure, but I forwarded you all, and I apologize for not copying you all when I responded to Kristen. I should have, but I forwarded you my note to Kristen earlier this morning. The long and short of it is I went back and listened to several hours of video, or watched several hours of video from May last year through the end of last year, and we had more than one discussion about signing, and the evolution of that was that at first Charlottesville wasn't on the sign because it's not signed anywhere else. Chris made us aware at one meeting that, look, I'm compelled to say that Charlottesville should be signed somewhere. The long and short of it is it's on the local and business sign. And once we got it there, we really never talked about moving it somewhere else. We did talk about the fact that that would direct people down John Warner Parkway and how some people may or may not perceive that. We talked about the fact that no trucks are allowed on John Warner Parkway. We talked about the fact that we would be signing the through lanes on Route 29 as the official truck route. The bottom line is Charlottesville, once we put it on that local and business sign, stayed there. Those signs are in fabrication, and that's not going to change. So Charlottesville will be on the overhead sign for the local and business lanes, and there will be a sign that on the local and business lanes that alerts people to turn left on Ryle Road East to the John Warner Parkway to Charlottesville. That's not what this person wished for, but that's where we are on that. And if you have any questions about the note I sent you earlier today, just give me a shout. No new postings on the provide input section of the website. The project, Lane Corman's hotline office got a couple of calls, one for repairs to some, I think, a damaged property entrance, which has been, it's either taken care of or slated to get taken care of.
Should be taken care of by now.
Yeah, and then one just asked about information about the restoration of, I guess, some of the area around the stormwater pond
Question.
at Ashwood.
Yeah, that stormwater pond at Ashwood, the question, what all the clearing was about, what the restoration would look like afterwards.
And you touched base back with
Yeah, I
that.
closed that.
Thank you. Last time we met, we had a question about, well, how does what was allocated for the project compare to the contract values? We'll talk about that at agenda item 7. At the very end of the meeting, we talked about pedestrian access, and we'll talk about that a little bit more at agenda item 8. And then the nighttime signal phasing, we've talked about a couple of times, and we'll talk about that just a bit more at agenda item 9. The open discussion, any thoughts for future meetings or issues? Henry? No? Chris?
No.
Mark?
Items that Pete emailed about, do we want to, I know we just tackled one of them, do we want to try to talk through others today?
Well, I'll tell you why I want to be a little careful about that. I would prefer to put them on the agenda, and then we talk about them so people know we're going to talk about them. But I don't think they're difficult issues to talk through. But that would be my preference.
Okay.
If that's okay with you.
One of the items, he was talking about the right turn from Rio, the Route 29 North. I think he thought that was going to require a stop. But my recollection is it's actually a free-flowing lane.
It is, but another part of his question was about pedestrians. If a pedestrian activates the signal, then the right turn would get a stop until that cleared. Then otherwise, it's free flow.
That'd be a pedestrian going from the north side of Rio to the south side of Rio. Or vice versa.
Well, yeah, or vice versa. Yeah. Yeah. Because there is no crossing at the north, right? But I'll be sure and get those items on the next agenda. Okay. As far as our milestones updates, we do have a couple of other items that completed on Route 29 widening. The right-of-way acquisition is finished. Well, let's go back up to Rye Road for a minute. The retaining wall piles and roadway widening bumped up another 10% to 60% complete, on track to be wrapped up before the end of April. Down on Route 29 widening, I mentioned to you last time we met that I had actually placed the completion of the gas line relocation at the end of February. That was my bad. It should have been at the end of April, and that work is 10% complete. Right-of-way acquisition moved up to 100%, so that's finished. Phase 1 grading, drainage, and paving bumped up another 5% to 40% complete. On Berkmar, the right-of-way acquisition continues, is 80% complete, so it'll go obviously a little past the end of February before that gets finished. Abutment excavation and pile driving on the south abutment is complete, so that was able to go to 100, and actually got a head start on the north abutment, is about 15% complete, which initially wasn't scheduled to start until May. The grading on the south of the river continues up another 10% to 60. Dave, I guess that too is a little behind schedule where they thought it would be. I'm not going to say that's critical, but we will. I should have blinked those red. On Hillsdale, right-of-way acquisition took a big jump up to 80% complete. That's good. Final design up to 75% complete. A big milestone in 5 days on Hillsdale, and that's the PS&E package, or well, the construction. Nobody knows what PS&E is. The plan specification and estimates. The construction bid documents will come in for review, and gets everything squared off leading up to the bids or the advertisement for bids at the end of March. Route 29 250 continues to do well. We said that the sound barrier is the kind of the critical path for us there. That bumped up another 15% complete. The pavement widening was scheduled to get done at the end of February. It's not, but neither one of those two items are really, we'll say they're not concerning, but they should not be. They should not rise to the level of an issue for that project to wrap up as planned by May 21st and get out of the way. As we talked about that enhanced landscaping, that's coming later. If you remember, we have an enhanced landscaping plan worked out with the city, but that investment will come after we finish the work at Rio, because we want Route 29, 250 wrapped up and out of the way.
Philip,
Yes.
quick question on that. Can the lanes open before the sound barrier is done?
I don't think so.
Well,
Can they?
They in theory could, but there's not really a reason to do that. The sound barrier will be complete by the fixed completion date of the project. The way they have it set up right now, that's giving them enough room to work safely and also work during the day. Otherwise, they have to do lane closures at night.
I don't think the Federal Highway Administration would want you to put traffic on it before the sound barrier was.
Yeah, it's opening the new lanes to traffic, and they like to have the noise walls completed by then.
Not taking anything for granted, but that project looks like it's squared off to be finished when it needs to be finished.
Just a couple of other things to point out about the schedule. One of the things we just learned about this morning with regard to Hillsdale utility relocation, the gas main relocation started today. So it has officially started utility relocations on schedule. And also to clarify about the pavement widening, I think quite honestly, part of the issue here is the way that they named the item in the schedule. I think what they were really meaning is the grading for the paving, because you see right below it, there's the final paving.
Right.
So it's really more the grading, but we're not keeping that from identifying that.
No. If it needs to click a color, it needs to click a color. But I would say overall, things are progressing well. There's a lot of work going on. Dave will cover that some in his project updates, which we'll get right into, as well as the recognition. I mean, that this is March. There's going to be a lot more work going on getting ready for May, and when May comes, it'll be a different kind of a ball game. May 23rd. Pete, good to see you. And Morgan brought up some of the issues you raised. We want to get those on the agenda for the next meeting, rather than just talk about them all as off-agenda items. I think they're all pretty clear to address on each item. So absolutely. Are there any other questions about the major milestones here?
Just trying to make sure I understand on the Hillsdale, where it's talking the final design is 10%.
Mm-hmm.
And 75%, that's as of today where they should be? Is that
Yeah, that was what we reported 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
and this is the current report. The
Okay.
number in parentheses,
Okay,
the
gotcha.
number in parentheses is
Gotcha.
our last meeting, the prior reporting period, and then the number to the right of the parentheses is this reporting period, as of February 29th.
But you're expecting to have the final, you said final plans next week, is that?
March the 8th.
March
March the
the
8th. Tuesday, the final bid package, plan, specification, and estimates are due. And we haven't missed one of those days, so we don't want to miss that one either, Hal, do we? Okay. Again, I think I mentioned that the VDOT and the city are talking formally 3 times, hey Brad, 3 times a week on every other day, status checkups, and everybody's doing their thing, so that's good. It's good. Dave, why don't you go ahead and do the updates, and then when you get to Rio, tell them a little bit about what we were talking about and what to start expecting, seeing going on there.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll start off, as usual, with the 29250 interchange project. Work this week, continuing the grading for the barrier wall. There's we call it F-shaped barrier wall, the typical barrier wall that you see along highways that protects the noise barrier. So they'll start grading. They began grading for that and continuing that. The sound barrier post installation continues along 250. Now they're drilling where they didn't have to drill before, setting it on top of the existing retaining wall. So they've drilled a bunch of holes, and you'll start seeing a lot more posts going in the next week or two. Continuing the installation of the MSE wall coping. This is the top portion of the wall that protects the wall, makes everything look uniform. Completing the installation of the median strip along Route 29. They were pouring concrete this week, so we've seen a lot of work there. Resuming the curb installation at various locations throughout the project, little pieces of curb that they had to come back in and finish up, and beginning the installation of the overhead sign foundations for the signs on Route 29. This is just a picture I took earlier this week to give you an idea. If you haven't driven out there, you can see all these vertical posts. The precast noise barrier panels will slide down in between those and be locked in place. So you can see here there's actually quite a few of them all the way down to the end of the big MSE retaining wall. There's actually a few more back on the right side of the picture that you can't see in this picture. Also here, these are the MSE coping portions. They just straddle the top of the MSE retaining wall. So good picture from this week. Next slide. The lane closures this week, Route 250 inside lane closure for the median curb work, 29 nighttime inside lane closures for that median work, And they've also done some left turn lane closures. You'll probably remember last fall, they closed some of those left turns to do a lot of that median work. So now when they're coming back in and pouring that concrete, they're doing some shorter duration left turn lane closures along Route 29. Next slide. Over the next 2 weeks, sound barrier post installation will continue on 250 westbound, completing the grading for the barrier wall that we discussed. It was occurring this week, completing the installation of the overhead sign structure foundations along 29, beginning the installation of that barrier wall along 250 in front of the sound walls, and completing the installation of the curb on 250 median. This is a couple of portions where they had some storm drains, and also the extension of the left turn lane to M Street South. Next slide. The lane closures associated with that are the same as what were occurring this week. Inside lane closures on 250, nighttime lane closures on the inside on 29 for median work, and the shorter term left lane closures for concrete pours that might be remaining. They'll probably finish those up next week. Don't expect those to go into the following week. Any questions on 29-250 progress? Pete?
Two. I should know this, but how far down, your picture shows the posts that are in, is that a complete set of posts, or are there more posts going into the east?
There are more
ramp?
going into the west. I think there might be one or two more to the east, but it doesn't continue down the ramp.
Down the ramp. Yeah. And then, so what's the barrier going to be? There's going to be something on the right side of the new ramp lane.
Protecting the wall?
Yeah, I mean, protecting the drivers from going over. Is that going to be a Jersey barrier?
Help me with the location on that.
As you're coming off of 29.
Yes.
If you're in the right lane, merging up
to 250 westbound?
Correct. What's immediately to my right for the construction?
It'd just be graded out. There wouldn't be a drop off in that location.
Okay, it's graded up.
Yes.
I'm having a hard time seeing it because I thought currently there's a drop off there.
The only drop off.
He's asking is, what is there between the edge of the pavement and the sound barrier?
Well, the sound barrier will turn back outside of the clear zone. Yeah. So you're asking is there a big crash cushion there? Is that what you're asking? Or?
Yeah, I guess.
I think Pete's talking about when you're on the new ramp, before you get to the sound barrier.
Correct.
What's between the edge of the roadway, the shoulder, and is it just graded to ground?
Yeah, it's just graded out.
That's why
they had done some excavation in there for storm drain and curb work, and that's where, at one point there was a drop off, but that's all.
So the drop off is going to get filled.
Yes.
Filled.
Yeah. Because the Best Buy parking lot sits up higher than the ramp.
Yeah.
And that gets
right. But currently there's a retaining wall that is part of the Best Buy development project that sits.
There was one that was constructed with the roadway project, because Best Buy sits up higher, and then as you come up the ramp, the parking lot sits lower. But once you get that far up the ramp, it's so far away, there's no issue, there's no hazard there. It doesn't require a barrier.
Okay.
If you'd like, I can look into it to be sure, but I'm pretty sure that's all great.
Not a huge deal. I was just curious. I was seeing in my head the sound barrier come farther to the east, I guess.
No, because the Best Buy, the commercial development doesn't need to be protected from the noise. It's the residential areas behind it.
Certainly. And then I had one other question, but I forgot it. So.
Okay. Well, if it comes back to you, let me know. Right-of-way grade separated intersection work this week. Roadway widening in all 4 quadrants, and I'm including all the things that are associated with roadway widening, like storm drains and under drains and curbing, all those things, sidewalk. That's going on in all 4 quadrants right now. Continuing the Fashion Square retaining wall and backfilling completed sections as they go, backfilling behind the wall. Abutment B formwork, this is something we've talked about for a little while. They did abutment A. They're doing abutment B. This is to cast the abutment now instead of this summer, so it's ready to go to place the bridge beams, all being done under the steel plates. Pile installation, they are nearly complete with all the piles. As of this morning, there are 17 more piles to place. Generally, they'll do 5, 6, 8 in a night, depending on how much they've got open. So they're very close to getting the last pile in the ground on the Rio project.
Just remind everybody how many piles that was. 17 left to go out of,
I don't even recall.
I thought it was
200.
No, that was just the abutment.
that was just the abutment.
Yeah, it was close to 200 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's abutment and retaining wall piles.
Right.
Asphalt paving in the widening areas, they've recently paved the widening in front of Hardee's, paved the widening in the northwest quadrant, kind of near the Goodwill, just south of the Goodwill store. So that's going to continue into next week as well, as they get areas completed and they can get asphalt on them. The tieback installation, remember that's the tieback walls, which anchors it back into the ground. That continues. 29th place directional bores for the signals. So they come in with a directional boring machine so they can run the conduits through for the signals. Completing that this week. Steel plate refresh. This is something that they do on almost a continual basis. They have plates back at the staging yard, and they paint them with an epoxy that has a abrasive material in it, and then they'll just switch them out instead of trying to paint them out there at night. So they're good and dry, and they're just continually doing that. But that's a big thing this week. They switched out a lot of plates and drilling for those last piles that we talked about. Next slide. This picture is a little dark. I apologize for that, but it's important. This is their tieback machine. And so the piles down here, you can see they've got this angle plate on them. We call these trumpet piles. And these are all pre-drilled so that the tieback machine comes in and installs the tieback down horizontally at an angle into the ground. And that's what eventually will hold up these piles adjacent to the bridge when the material in the middle is excavated. So what you're looking at now is they have an inside lane closure. Everybody's on the outside over here running on, the traffic's on the outside. I believe this is the building where the Jimmy John's is in front of Fashion Square Mall, northbound lanes. So that's what that operation looks like. A little bit messy. They keep it covered up so we don't have dirt and things like that kind of flying in the air. But that's what's happening at night. They usually get 6 to 8 of these done a night, again, depending on how much they have prepped and ready to go. So I just wanted everybody to kind of get a visualization of what that tieback operation looks like. Any questions on how the tiebacks are installed?
So it sounds like the piles should all be finished by the next meeting?
Yes. I would think they would be, yes. They'll probably still be installing some of the tiebacks, but as far as the piles being in the ground, yes. Slide. Okay, lane closures this week, same as we talked about at the last meeting. They still do have the daytime lane closure, that right turn lane from southbound 29 to Rio, closed until March 9th. There's been a lot of activity going on there. I think they've taken good advantage of that time and been able to open that up much quicker. They've already got asphalt on it, finishing curbs, sidewalk, things of that nature, these runs. Rio crossover closed at night to through traffic and left turns from 29, and triple lane closures northbound and southbound. Next slide. This is the new asphalt that was placed there in that southbound right turn lane. So this is near Jefferson Coin. That'd be just over to the right. You can see they've got the new curb installed, the new drop inlet here for the storm drain, asphalt. And this is an important sign right here. This is an entrance sign to help people as they're driving and they see all these barrels find these entrances. And there are 2 entrances within this lane closure. Both of them are open at all times during the day. And people have been able to very easily find those entrances, get in and out. We've been very careful to listen for any complaints about that, and it seems to be working extremely well. So we haven't had to make any changes. Any questions about that picture or that operation?
But it'll be up and gone.
March 9th. March 9th is the last day of this closure, which is consistent with what they asked for.
Yes, okay.
Have there been any accidents in that area around the lane closure?
No, I'm not aware of any. No.
I've seen some, but I mean, just fender benders.
At that location?
Or just on 29, that in that area, yeah. There've been
Well, that
at least 2. Yeah.
Well, I mean, not during the daytime lane closures, have you? I haven't heard of any.
I don't even remember.
On occasion, there's usually rear end accidents from people who try to stop at the red light at Rio too quickly, and there's a rear end accident. That's what we've seen a lot of. Not a lot of them, but the majority that happen out there. I'm not aware of any that have occurred in the work zone during working hours, so that's been very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
But working hours now are all times.
Well, that's the only location where they have the lane.
Working hours are when the cones are up, in my opinion.
Well, sure. Yeah. But I'm not aware of any accidents we've had since that lane closure started. If there are any, we'll find out pretty soon from Joel's report over the next month or 2. Over the next 2 weeks, continuing that roadway widening in all 4 of the quadrants. The northwest quadrant should be wrapping up after the 9th. There'll be a little bit of touch-up work after that. Continuing the Fashion Square retaining wall, the Rio signal directional bore, so it'll complete 29th place and then move up to Rio, bore across Rio Road for the conduit. Above and B formwork will continue, tieback pile installation will continue, asphalt paving in the widened areas, tieback installation, drilling for piles, and a tentative date over the next 2 weeks for starting the installation of the permanent traffic signal at 29th place. So what we're going to start seeing is these permanent signals being installed. Some of them may not be activated due to the location, but installed and ready to go, so that once the GSI is completed this summer, those signals already in place can be activated very quickly and traffic running on permanent condition. So, lane closures over the next 2 weeks, again, the same as what we just discussed, but during that period, that daytime lane closure for the southbound lanes will end on March 9th, or that will be the last day. Rio crossover closed to through traffic and left turns, and the triple lane closures northbound and southbound at nighttime. So now you want to talk about
Talk about the southwest quadrant a bit and what's going to be coming up in front of some of those entrances.
BMP 4 will be beginning
BMP4.
soon. BMP, best managed practice, it's an underground stormwater management facility. That's going to start likely next week or the following week. They'll start prepping for that. And what that's going to look like is some steel plates, just like we have for the piles, in front of, is it First National Bank here? Brown Auto. So it'd be in the right 2 lanes, so expect to see some steel plates there. It's a tricky installation, but we've gone through the process with Lane Corman as to how that's going to be installed. So we don't expect any problems, but you will see some steel plates in that location. Probably for 4 or 5 weeks.
But at nighttime, well, at nighttime there's a lot of activity everywhere, but there's going to be a lot of activity around that particular area.
Yeah, and there is already a lot of activity in that area,
is.
but there will be at nighttime, a lot of excavation, putting in drainage structures, putting in the pipe for the stormwater management facility, and then covered back up with steel plates, just like we do for all the trenches for the piles now every night. So something to keep an eye on. Any questions on that?
Those plates will be
Recessed. Yes. Yeah, every plate we have out there now is recessed. They'll continue to be recessed. It's easier maintenance, but it really made sense for the winter maintenance plan, and that worked very well. So they're continuing to recess those plates. Any other questions on Rio? Okay. Moving on to 29 widening. This week, completing ponds 2, 3, and 5 construction entrances. So if you think about the numbering, kind of as you go north, the numbering gets higher. So pond 2 is on the right side, about halfway between Polar Grounds and Asheville Boulevard. Pond 3 is right there at the entrance at Asheville Boulevard. Pond 5 is a little bit further north on the right side. Installing the temporary drainage structures as they've been doing in the median for quite some time. Pond 5 clearing, so they're finishing up the clearing there this week. Shoulder clearing in a couple of locations for additional ponds or other items that need to occur in the near future. Pond 2 and 5 erosion control, so getting them cleared, getting the initial grading done, and getting them stabilized so we don't have silt runoff. Continuing the median grading and utility relocations for Dominion, Lumos, Fiber Light, and Charlottesville Gas, which has now begun. Next slide. This is a picture right at Asheville Boulevard. This is the Pond 3 location, and you can see Dominion here doing a new aerial crossing. This is the power that will feed Forest Lakes from this location in the future. So I thought this was a good representation of some of the utility work that's going on out there every day. Next slide. Lane closures, left lane closures northbound, southbound at nighttime. Next slide. Over the next 2 weeks, it'll construct an access to the culvert Jack and Bore. The first one they're doing is near the Pond 2 location, so about halfway between Polo Grounds and Ashwood. Jack and Bore operation is when they have to install a pipe deep in the ground instead of digging up the whole road. They can go in and mechanically jack it underneath the road so they don't have to disturb traffic. Median grading, utility relocations again with Dominion, Lumos, and Charlottesville Gas. Pond 5 finishing up at any clearing that's left there. Mobilizing the Jack and Bore crew, this is a specialty subcontractor, and beginning the culvert Jack and Bore operations hopefully next week. Next slide. Lane closures associated with all of that work are the same as we've had for quite some time now, just left lane closures northbound and southbound. Any questions on 29 widening? Okay. Roofmar extended. This is probably where the most dramatic change has been in the past couple of weeks. Constructing the leveling pad for MSC wall at abutment A, constructing the crane pads for piers 1 and 2. Unfortunately, this wasn't able to be done this week. It's just too wet in the areas beside the river, so they're going to wait until that dries up a little bit. They have the time available to do that. MSC formwork on the abutments, completing the grading at abutment B, mobilizing the crane and driving piles at abutment B. Today was the first day of pile driving at abutment B north of the river. A lot of grading had to occur to get the equipment in there to build the pad for the crane, to build the pad for the piles. And I think I've got a picture of that next. Go to the next slide. I don't, but this is abutment A looking across the river. And what you see right there is actually the boom of the crane.
You've got a picture of B coming up.
Oh, I do? Good. Okay. So here's all the piles that were driven at abutment A. This is kind of what it looks like, but this was the area where they did the archaeological investigation. This is also the area where they're going to start doing the pier installation in the near future. Go to the next one. This is abutment B, the crane pad. So to the left down the slope is Rio Mills Road. You can actually see the power lines right there, which are going to be relocated shortly. But this is where the bridge will touch down on the north side. Actually, can you go back to the last picture? Just to give a perspective. Again, you see the crane over here. I know all the trees haven't been cleared yet, but that gives you the first real perspective of the length of the bridge in that location. A little over 700 feet. Okay, slide.
David,
Yes.
you do mention MSC walls, which are those the sound barriers?
No, that's the mechanically stabilized earth. That's
Retained.
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
not sound.
I should
barriers.
remember these
Yeah,
acronyms.
well,
Okay.
or not.
I don't blame you for not remembering. that.
Okay, it's a retention wall.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, over the next 2 weeks, getting the crane pads installed for piers 1 and 2. And those will be rather large drill caissons there, drill shafts. MSC formwork at abutment B, MSC panels at abutment A, and this is just finishing out beneath the pile, so what you'll see kind of on the bottom of the bridge. Finishing driving piles at abutment B. It usually goes fairly quickly. You saw there wasn't nearly as many piles on abutment A as there was out, say, Rio, so this go very quickly and done during the day. MSC panel installation at abutment B, constructing the access to the piers, so they build the pier pads and then the access so they can get concrete trucks down there, things of that nature, personnel, tools, all those things. mobilizing and beginning the pier drill shafts. So 3 shafts, 2 piers, 3 shafts for each pier, a total of 6 drill shafts in that area alongside the river, 2 sets of 3. Lane closures associated with Berkmar right now, they've got a flagging operation on Rival Mills Road, so they have a lot of equipment coming in there. They mobilize the crane that comes in parts, so they've got flaggers down there, directing traffic, holding them up, let something come in, and then get them through. Any questions on Berkmar? There really is a lot of activity right now over on Rival Mills Road. It's good to see there's a lot of progress associated with that. Okay, signal updates, really not much change to report here. They're still scheduled for April 1 through May 1st to construct those final improvements that were really supporting our maintenance of traffic. Does anybody have any questions about those? Nothing's changed as far as the plan. Okay, move on. Hillsdale, how would you like to come up and talk a little bit about Hillsdale?
Dave. As Phelps said earlier, we're closing in on a big week next Tuesday when we will receive the bid package for review and in prep for the ad at the end of the month. This past week and this week, we're working to finalize the memorandum of understanding with the county on the relocated stormwater management basin. Understand revised plans are going back to the county today to address those questions. A request for approval of proprietary items was made this week. Our construction folks looked at that, and we've gone back with a request for some additional backup data and justification, which I'll expect to receive later today. Final settlement and closing documents for the USPS property. We did get concurrence from USPS today that they're okay with draft language changes, so that's coming to a close here.
So those last 3 comment items were
Yes.
good? Good.
And they're continuing with the final road and bridge plans. Special provisions are being put together for the bid package. And we did get final plats Monday for all but 2 of the properties. Our right-of-way folks have reviewed those with no issues, and I expect to see the other 2 today, and we'll do a quick review on those. Those will be required for recordation of right-of-way. Next 2 weeks, again, next Tuesday is the big date for the bid package to come in. We will continue to push for approval on proprietary items within the project. They're preparing special provisions to be included in the bid package, and we will be reviewing that starting Wednesday. Any questions?
Very good. Very good.
Dave did mention that the gas relocations have begun. That's in the area of the commercial building that will be divided into 2 buildings.
So is that squared off, that demolition plan for?
The demolition plan is part of the bid package.
Yeah, part of the bid package, right.
Al, you said there's 2 remaining pieces of right-of-way.
2 plats that are being finalized, and they're in process, and I'll get those today.
Yeah, all right-of-way offers have been made. Now, I don't know about acceptance.
They've been all been made.
They've all been made.
Offers are out there. There was one that had to be remade because of the change of ownership. But
right.
I do.
That got taken care of, though, right?
That's getting taken care of tomorrow. They have to
Okay.
redo that offer.
Right.
Now, the new owner is aware of it, but the official re-offer is going to be made tomorrow.
Now, Hal, just for everybody's clarification, once this bid package comes in and we review it, we're really reviewing it to provide comments to the city. And the city will do the advertising. The city will advertise for bids, and the city will hold the paper with the contractor.
That's right. One other note that we didn't get on here, yesterday we had a meeting with the city, just an introductory meeting with the CEI team, Construction Engineering Inspection team, and that was kind of a kickoff to get to know one another, and that was a positive.
So the city's already brought their CEI team on.
That's right. And they're looking at the package now as well, so getting up to speed with our folks who will oversee that also.
How will the bids go out?
The city will make an announcement, and that will be, they usually post that in the paper and on their website for bids.
Do we know how long the bid period, be?
I'm not sure how long, probably at least 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah, that's what I would.
You know, if we get a lot of questions, then that might have to go a little bit longer, but they're planning for that. And I think 3 weeks is probably a minimum.
This is a design bid build as opposed to the design build projects. So the long and short of it is you're giving contractors something and saying, how much will you charge us to do this?
That's right.
Gotta believe that Lane Corman will be, I mean, if they're interested, they're here.
We don't.
I understand. I'm just making a statement.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything, but I mean, the city should have an opportunity to save some money, is what I'm saying.
It's
Or
possible.
VDOT, whatever.
It's possible. We haven't talked to them about it at all, and they may or may not. If they did bid on it, it probably wouldn't be as the joint venture.
I don't convince you all, but I'm just,
Yeah, absolutely.
seems like if there's something.
We'll stay out of that.
We'll just make sure it doesn't distract them from any of the other.
Well, no.
Peter, are you giving a recommendation of their performance so far? Is that endorsement or?
I think he was making an commercial observation.
I know that if I was here, I would be interested in more work.
It's just a businessman's speculation, that's it.
You know, fortunately, maybe next time we'll have some pictures of Hillsdale. Nothing yet.
We could take a picture of Hal and Jeanette and Tony Edwards. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I do have one of those, but still today.
At really 2 meetings ago, I think it was, for the first time, we showed you the contract values for the projects, how much had been invoiced, change orders, exposure, which means anticipated things that may result in change orders. And we agreed that we would update this at the second meeting of each month. So the numbers you see here are exactly the same ones that you saw at the last meeting. However, at the last meeting, Karen asked the question, well, we see the contract values and where you think the contract values are going to end up, but what is VDOT's budget? And we talked a little bit about the programmed allocations in the 6-year improvement program. So what this last column shows you, if you're familiar with VDOT's 6-year improvement program, you generally see 3 numbers: preliminary engineering, right-of-way, which includes utilities, and construction. What these numbers are, in the last column on the right, are the dollars allocated to construction in the 6-year improvement program for each one of those projects. The adaptive signals is a little funky. That's just, that's a big budget number, so don't get too hung up on that for a minute. But what those last numbers are is back in May of 2014, when the recommendation was made for the Route 29 Solutions package, it went to the Commonwealth Transportation Board, and there were estimates that had been developed by VDOT for preliminary engineering, right-of-way, and construction, and these were the dollars that were allocated in the program for construction back in May of 2014. So, as any person's eyes would be inclined to do, and I think Chip actually asked this question once before, well, gee, does that mean we have $39 million that we can do more stuff with? No, it does not. While it does mean that if there are adjustments necessary to make at the end, as Dave noted, some of right-of-way issues may not settle out and close till after all the construction is complete. So if there's adjustments that need to be made, those adjustments can be made within the allocated dollars. What doesn't get spent goes back into the mill, unless Mark can figure out what.
If I could ever find a way.
Mark, yeah, people have been working on this for a lot of years.
There are a lot of smarter people than me trying to figure out how to get their hands on it.
But it was a good observation that Karen brought up, because it was sort of like, let's add some context here. You know, to sort of Pete's point about the city taking advantage of maybe some bids. VDOT certainly was the beneficiary of a very good bid for the design build projects. Now, these numbers are no secret. You know, I mean, anybody anywhere with internet access or with a phone call to VDOT can find out what those numbers are. But here's where your competition in the industry lands you, and you know, those design build projects came in at just a very good bid. The winning bid for $29,250 was good bid. This, I'm not too excited over the fact that there's $3.4 million and the total budget was $3.7 million for the adaptive signals. That's going to pretty much wash out, because this number includes all the preliminary engineering costs that were allocated for the project. That is only what would be a construction cost, but these are all being done by your on-call with task orders.
And the other thing is, there was a lot of discussion and agreements made early on to transfer some money from
Right.
design build budget,
Right.
because the adaptive system components of it help us during the
Yes.
MIT this summer. So
Right.
that's why it's a little higher than our
The
allocated budget.
Hillsdale, all we are carrying is the construction allocation, because that's all we know that's all we know right now. I was trying to remember how much had been allocated to these projects in the 6-year program before 2014, and I just frankly can't remember. But it was woefully short of the 100. None of them were fully programmed. Not Best Buy. None of them were fully allocated in the 6-year program until after the first panel.
I think Best Buy was close.
Did their meeting.
I think Best Buy was very close. If not.
Best Buy was close, but it wasn't. It was
going to happen.
I can't remember the number. It was short. Yeah, it was going to happen. But so we'll continue to update this once a month in our second meeting. Yeah.
Where does the preliminary engineering fall into this grid for the next shoe to drop?
For hydraulic and the Hillsdale South, you know, I had it on here the first time we showed it, but it's never going to change. Because it's $10 million.
Is that in the $116 million on top, or is it?
It's a separate.
No, it's separate.
Project.
It's a separate $10 million allocation for
But it's
hydraulic.
It's out of the 185.
No,
Bottom right.
no.
It's 230.
If you added that in, this would be 205. It would be another $20 million. There's another $20 million, 10 to hydraulic and 10 to Hillsdale South, that are programmed for 2018, fiscal year 2018.
But they're not for construction.
No, they're for
That's
preliminary
why
engineering
because
only.
Here, the totals we show on the right-hand side are for construction.
That's for construction, yes.
So that's why they're not on here anymore, because
That's why they're not on here, because they're not for construction, and they took up space, and they will never change.
well, and they're not for construction.
Well, they'll never change
So it's not
until,
apples and apples, because we
No,
don't show
no.
the preliminary engineering
What?
or the right-of-way in
No.
the columns on
No.
the right-hand
No.
side either.
no, that's right. But they're not in these numbers. That's another $20 million.
Now, a minor question I have on Hillsdale, I understand it's lump sum, but I resist the idea of not having a change order at all.
Oh, no, it's not lump sum in that sense of the word that we're used to saying lump sum. There'll be a set of plans, there are a set of plans, and the contractor will say, we'll do it for $10 million. During the course of the administration of that project, more than likely, there will be some sort of change in that plan for some reason. If there's a change in that plan that requires compensation, then the contractor will say, gee, it might be quantities. You told me I would have to move 5 buckets of dirt, and I had to move 7 buckets of dirt. And a bucket of dirt cost $1, so I need $2. The contractor will say, I'm happy to move the additional 2 buckets of dirt, but you're going to have to pay me a couple of bucks. And more than likely, there will be some activity.
Work change order.
Yeah.
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 But the number on the right is exactly the same as anticipated.
Because right now, that's all that's in the program.
Okay.
That's all.
I don't want to belabor this.
Yeah, no, let's say.
When you come in for the additional 2 buckets, then that number on the right makes it look like you have, on the other project, it looks like we have surpluses, and here we'll have a deficit.
It depends on what this number is.
That's something else.
It depends on what that number is.
Phil, we may want to just take that off right now. We don't have a contract.
I think we should leave Hillsdale on there for a lot of reasons.
No. The original construction contract value, because we don't have a contract yet.
Yeah, let me tell you why it's in there. Because if you take it off, if you take anything out, it gives you a false impression down here. So it won't be long, Henry, because we're going to advertise on March 31st, and sometime in the 4 to 6 week time period, we'll know what that number is, and then we'll change it. So I'll make a note on here right now that this is just a budget and not a contract value. Okay?
Fair.
But remember, Dave, at one time we didn't have it over here, and it made it look like you had.
Right.
Yeah, so it's good to leave it in. And
one other point of note, change orders aren't always additional money to the contract. Sometimes they're
the other way.
Sure.
Yeah. Let's don't talk about the ratio of how often it happens one way to the other. But
if they only needed 3 buckets of dirt, it was 50 cents.
Well, it's just the difference in how you manage, the administer the 2 different contract types. We could talk about that in itself for a long time. But just to be redundant, but just so we close on the note, we'll update those dollars. Dave processes invoices the first couple weeks of the month. We'll update that chart the middle meeting of each month. And when we have our bids for Hillsdale, we'll drop in the actual contract value. The dollar, go back a minute. These won't change on the far right unless the CTB, the Commonwealth Transportation Board, for some reason shuffle those allocations, but that's not going to be happening anytime soon. Okay. Pedestrian accommodation and detours. We talked about this. We talked about it throughout the last meeting, but it came up in the closing comments, and we spent a good bit of time on it for what may be sort of a simple conclusion over the last 2 weeks. Currently, if you go out there today, pedestrian access is interrupted in all 4 quadrants. The bottom line is that no later than Monday, March the 7th, this coming Monday, ped access is going to be restored in the southern quadrants, the southwest side and the southeast side. No later than Wednesday, March the 9th, pedestrian access will be restored in the northwest quadrant. In the area where they're doing those daytime closures right now, pedestrian access is interrupted just to the west of Route 29 and north of Rio Road. That'll be restored by March the 9th. Pedestrian access in the northeast quadrant, that section from Rio and 29 north, potentially will remain interrupted until May the 23rd, May 23rd. May not be that long. But remember, before we go on to the bottom and in the next slide, the contractor is required to reasonably maintain pedestrian access and appropriately sign any closures. But the contractor is not required to improve pedestrian access in Albemarle or Charlottesville. In other words, we didn't hire Lane Corman to fix what might be a pedestrian access problem. So they can't be expected to do more than they're able to work with currently. On the Rio Road, on the north side of Rio Road East, up to this northeast quadrant, there is no sidewalk. There is no pedestrian access. So anything before that current sidewalk closed sign is rather irrelevant, because there is no sidewalk. There is no earlier place to warn a pedestrian that the sidewalk is closed.
On Rio Road.
On Rio Road. But there is on 29 north and south. And we had a conference call to wrap things up yesterday morning, with the placement of some additional sidewalk closed signs on 29 north and south. Rio Road, 29, this is the piece we're talking about. By Monday, all of this access will be restored. By Wednesday, this corner will be restored. This won't, and it will potentially be interrupted until May, probably not until May 23rd, but it could be. But we're going to come down here. These lines, green with the arrow, green with an arrow, are existing pedestrian access. We're going to come down just in advance of 29th Place and Fashion Square, and there'll be a sign that says sidewalk closed north of Rio Road. They'll also repeat that sign at the northernmost Fashion Square entrance. And then north of Rio Road, on the east side, at Woodbrook, there will be a sidewalk closed at Rio Road, and sidewalk closed at Rio Road. I guess that's Gardens Boulevard, just south of Gardens Boulevard. Now, what we're not going to do is say, and therefore go here and cross. Because there's really, here there is a crosswalk, right, Dave, at 29? That there is no, there is no crosswalk.
No, we don't cross 29 unless you use the.
No, that's right. We don't cross 29.
Use the method, and there's a method I recommend it, which is cross somewhere between traffic lights, because then you can see the platoons coming.
Right.
That's how you do it. That's
the
informal method.
This is where these signs will be located.
And are they going to be multilingual? Because the people that walk there, like my wife likes to say, and she has an accent, it's foreigners and foreigners that cross and walk and do stuff. Mostly. So being a slightly facetious, the signs probably should be also in Spanish and probably Chinese. That's just a little curveball I'm trying to just emphasize something, that we have a bias against pedestrians in this community. My old pet peeve.
Well, I don't know. I mean, because we want to get these signs, to get them fabricated, it's going to take about a week. I think we ordered them, did we order them yesterday, Owen, or do you know?
At least today, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, if not yesterday, they were ordered today.
For the southbound signs, they say the sidewalk's closed at Rio Road, but the sidewalk's closed before you get to Rio Road, right? Am I missing something?
But where the sidewalk's closed, it's basically just dangling. It's
Yeah.
Dead end.
Yeah.
Which is what it is right now.
Right. Right, it's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
It's just a dead end at a different place.
yeah, and if you're smart, if you go to cross, you probably cross somewhere where those signs are.
That's right.
Because you're far away from the
That's
traffic
right.
lights,
That's
because at those intersections.
That's right.
But
You
it's not
really
telling
don't
you
want
to
to
cross
cross. That's where you die.
Phil, language aside, why don't we should put sidewalk closed ahead and have something that we can move for when later on we've got another section closed?
Well, because we shouldn't have another section closed.
Hey, it's your money. I mean,
Yeah, I think being specific in this case
that's fine.
Meets more the spirit of the discussion we had 2 weeks ago.
I wasn't here for the discussion.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, something is better than nothing. This is something.
Well, we know we're going to get these open, so there's no sense, we could have spent more time, I could have spent more time aggravating the contractor than it takes to leave them alone and let them get their work done and get these open by Monday. Maybe before Monday, but by Monday. And this quadrant open by Wednesday. So we sort of said, look, 3 out of the 4 then, let's just put a check mark by what can we do to make it a little better than what it is? Because right now you just have sidewalk closed here and here, and that's it. So it'll be a little advanced warning
At
that.
least on one side of 29,
Yes.
you may be able to keep walking.
Yeah. And now, might somebody come up here and say, well, gee, I'll walk through, well, somebody might. We don't know what somebody might do or think or make a decision. But at least they'll have a little information that says, if you're walking on up the road, you're going to run out of sidewalk.
And as you pointed out, there's only one sidewalk on Rio Road on the east side, which, again, in the urbanized community as we are in this area, they shouldn't.
Well, here was the point, Henry. You're really speaking to the point, because I was saying to the contractor, look, we've got to maintain continuity. And they correctly pointed out, which I just frankly hadn't thought of, well, there's no continuity to maintain. And we can't require them to create an improvement where none exists.
How we managed to widen Rio, which happened some years back, and not put a sidewalk on both sides, is one of the things that escapes me. We have this whole movement to hold streets, pedestrian traffic, and public transit, and all that. Then we just build these things.
Yeah.
Pedestrians be damned.
So that's it, and I thought it was a good discussion we had last week, and this makes it better than it is. And I don't think that's going to extend out till May, but it could.
It's definitely an improvement.
Well, Owen and his folks and Jason worked real hard to get something together over the last couple of weeks, and really appreciate it. Okay? What was the next one? Nighttime signal fade. Brad had brought this up a couple of times, and what we arrived at was that before May 23rd, we've put the lights on flash during the nighttime work. Route 29 flashes yellow. Ryle Road flashes green. During the restriction period, which we had talked about for some time, kind of sometimes the obvious gets by us. There won't be a signal there. So between May 23rd and September 2nd, there is no signal at the Rio intersection. Northbound and southbound on 29 will be free flow. There'll be a yield for the right turn from Rio West to 29 North. And there'll be a stop sign, because there's a little grade and a sight distance issue. So there's a stop sign for the right turn from Rio East to Rio 29 South. So we should not have that issue of traffic queuing up, waiting for a signal to go through a phase that doesn't exist, because there won't be a signal. There won't be any signal there. And then I said after September 2nd, or sooner if, and then I'm betting on the come, I put when the GSI opens early, there'll be a new fully operational traffic signal there. So I think we got it figured out.
Yeah, good.
I think we got it figured out.
Unless you find out that a lot of cars are backing up behind the stop sign. Should that...
Well, the stop sign we're going to watch, I mean, because you do have to be cognizant not only of that, but remember this is this is during the restriction period,
Yeah.
and you do want to be careful with the stopping sign.
It's day and night.
Yeah. Yes.
Because you have a lot of cars behind the stop sign.
Right.
It may take forever to get in.
Well, recall, the only movement that will be open is that right turn.
Yeah.
And Brookmore really will become the predominant way to get to 29 South. And ideally,
Yeah, I know, that's the
vehicles
plan.
making that right turn and going to the business.
I know that that's a plan, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, what if?
They want to watch and see what happens.
Everybody's going to be watching all these movements very carefully. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It may work, or people may still want to go to the intersection, back up behind the stop sign. You won't know really that until you're there.
So that gets that issue sort of wrapped up, and this is one we really talked a lot about. Well, if we're having a problem now at nighttime, what's going to happen during the restricted period? And the signal won't be the issue. Let's put it that way. I think that this is something you can look at. I can send you separately. It's a proposed calendar for the rest of the year, and then I think John Lynch and I talked about this a bit yesterday, and it's up to feedback from you all. I'm inclined to think that every other week through the end of the year is still important as we watch how the GSI is functioning. In 2017, we still have 3 other projects to finish here. I mean, we've got, Best Buy will be done. This project, or Rio GSI, while the GSI will be open on or before May 2nd, the complete project won't finish until December 2nd, so there's cleanup work to be done. But we'll have 29 widening underway, we'll have Berkmar underway, Hillsdale underway. Whether or not you want to keep meeting twice a month in 2017, I don't know. That's something to think about after we think about this. I mean, maybe in 2017 we want to meet once a month. I don't know.
And then the hydraulic preliminary starts in fiscal year 18, which is July of 2017.
That'll be somebody else meeting.
I'm trying to get you to say that. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all I was doing.
I would expect that to start on schedule. But take a look. This made sense to me. It kind of got us around Thanksgiving. It sort of got us 2 meetings in December before the holidays. And personally, I think there will be, I think Henry in the early days mentioned this more than once. It's not just what happens before the GSI, but what about once it's finished and watching it operate? I know I've been on other projects where, and I'm sure you have, I'm sure everybody has, you know, there's always the potential for a surprise somewhere in terms of how something is operating. So we can, if you have a thought about that, you can let me know. If not, we'll try to lock it down here the next meeting. And that's all I have. Any wrap up or new business? We will get your items on the next agenda.
Yeah.
Just a reminder, March 15th, the Chamber of Commerce sponsored event.
Yeah.
Will be kind of the kickoff of the marketing plan.
And that's at Colonial Auto, right?
Colonial Auto.
Yeah.
It is free flowing everything is what I'm told.
Good deal.
Due to the sponsor.
Any car raffles?
It is a Chamber of Commerce Let's Connect event that happens to have a passive component for this project. It is not a kickoff event for this project.
No, it is a chamber event. They're allowing us to introduce the marketing plan.
Right. Okay.
Any good sales going on at that time?
Everything's on sale.
Everything's reduced 50%, right?
Well, it's not scary.
I've been looking for that new truck.
But there's room in the budget for a new truck.
So that's your first meeting, though, since you finalized your marketing plan, the get-around map, the kind of your SIR plan for the materials and all that.
The first opportunity to have some of the materials available.
Yeah, very good.
I think, the plan is that there'll be posters up for all the maps, there'll be handouts.
Yeah.
There'll be information for access to more materials. I believe Lee Catlin's going to come out and speak, and so we're happy to do it. We kind of stuck in the
Pete,
middle.
I've told everybody, man, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be doing this project.
We're happy. Appreciate that.
No, I think it's great. I think it's really great. And what was your frequency of meetings you were going to do? How many did you have planned?
The chamber?
The open for business thing, or?
I think the idea is that they're going to fill out the schedule of from there through the closure.
Okay.
These are the chamber after hours events.
Right. Correct.
Yeah.
And the chamber's going to try to, and I think they've got most of them booked out in the quad.
Right.
Which is a good opportunity.
Yeah, it is. I don't know if you have the opportunity to do them this frequently, but another project that Debbie and I worked on, there was a weekly, what do we call this? Stay and play. But it was it was downtown, and it was, after work at a place that served refreshments of some sort, and people in the area were encouraged to go to that location. That I think we had them on Wednesdays, and they worked out well.
Can I bring this up because you made the point of some events happening in the area, and we're talking about that. I became aware this week of some things that were happening kind of in the quadrant, and some businesses that were looking to do some events or just draw attention. And I just say it because we had the platform today, but I'm hopeful that the county can, Mark, Brad, and anybody else that's listening, make some accommodations. I mean, we've talked about this before, but now the rubber's hitting the road, and these permits that are required to have food trucks and events and tents or whatever they are. I mean, let's find a way to fast track that conversation. We've certainly had all the lip service going in. Now the time is and we have not tried to do anything, but I'm hearing that kind of the status quo is the paperwork process is still the paperwork.
Until we hear about it, there's not much we can do.
No, I understand.
Signs.
I understand.
We fast track being able to put temporary signs up, so
Right.
I don't see why the board would resist that.
And I don't think they're big permits. I mean, I think they're $100 permit or whatever for.
Yeah, we should be able to exempt that kind of stuff and fast track it.
I think it would be helpful for the few months that we're going to be under pressure.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Pete. Anything else? Chip? Morgan? Brad?
No.
The video you sent yesterday, I just
Yes.
wanted to mention that was interesting. I took a look at it.
Oh, okay. Okay. These videos always elicit comments on both sides of the fence. You know.
Maybe that's why you didn't show it today.
Well, I didn't even think about showing it today. Really, there were some comments about, well, gee, cars aren't changing lanes, and yeah, that's true. I mean, the video is like most things; it's a product of a budget, and a lot of attention was given to the engineering details, and we could have modeled lane changes and traffic turning in and out of each entrance and spent a lot more money on it, which would do nothing to change anybody's mind about the project. But I thought they did a good job. We can show it if you want to see it, but I mean, it's on the website, route29solutions.org. There's a little banner Lou has running up there that'll run for a couple of weeks. But it'll be there. The banner will go away, but it'll be on the Rio Road page. And the reason it's I said the final video is because we're not going to spend any more money doing any more videos on the Rio GSI.
The final video, you have to film it yourself.
That's right. It'll be a drive-through. But I thought it was overall, I thought it was a good job, and some criticisms or observations were certainly fair ones that, you know, yeah, it could have showed cars changing lanes more. I don't know what that would have done, but that's a fair call. Traffic, it does show traffic continuing straight on the local lanes. Some of that is a function of where that traffic's coming from. I mean, if traffic's coming out of Goodwill and wants to get up to Hardee's, it's going to stay on the local lanes, cross the local lanes, and then go on Route 29. So
I didn't see any jaunt buses in there, but that's all right.
No, I thought I did. Actually, I thought I did see a jaunt bus
In there?
There was a box truck.
Somehow there was
Frankly, I thought I specifically saw one in the draft. I'm not kidding. Well, doggone it.
The only thing I noticed missing was a few of the Todd signs.
We left those out for Morgan's.
There was one in there.
There was one in there.
A little small one.
Well, remember, they will reduce by some number. They will reduce by some number. But anyway, those videos are like even a presentation. You can look at them about 25 times and then decide that it's okay, and the 26th time you look at it, you say, oh man, that's not supposed to be.
Well, it was only an approximation in the first place.
That's all it is. Exactly, yeah, exactly. It's an approximation. But this one, unlike the first two, this one is built off of a wireframe diagram driven by the final construction drawings. So, Henry, any wrap up or anything? All right, so we'll be here on St. Patrick's Day, I guess. 17. Yeah. Take care. And have all of you had a chance or an occasion to drive through the Rio construction at night?
Yeah.
Oh.
I do though.
There's a lot going on out there. Okay. We may want to keep you out. No, I'm teasing. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you. See you in a couple weeks.